What's going on, everybody? This is Danny Made it back again with Class B with Fisher again. Yeah, we're just gonna quickly get into it, and we're gonna kind of review and uh, have react a little bit to last week. I'll let you start on this one. Kind of, what were the biggest surprises, and what'd you get from last week in these Class B playoffs?
Well, I'll tell you what wasn't a surprise, and that is Bennington and Scott. They really came out and took care of business right away, showing why they're probably the top two teams to beat. I was surprised by McCook taking Hastings. If I pull up my notes, yeah, it was a one-score game heading into the second quarter. Then McCook outscored him 13-0. Fourth quarter was 7-7, but McCook ended up with the win. What's interesting about that game is, according to the box score on Max Preps, McCook didn't complete a single pass during the game, it looks like. Campbell had 240 rushing yards, which is crazy for Class B. And I was also surprised by Scott's Bluff doing what they did. I thought they would beat Gretna, but I didn't think it would be 55-27.
Yeah, I agree on that one. I actually picked Retina last week, and that didn't work out in my favor. But Scottsbluff re looked really awesome. I'm not going to go into it too deep, because we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But another game that kind of surprised me was the Seward and Lincoln Pius rematch. That game was only decided by a point. And then McCook, obviously, that's a big win. I thought that Hastings was really just going to take over that game, kind of like they did last week or last time they played them. Yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise in Class B. I didn't do as good in Class B in my predictions as I did in some of the other classes, but where I did do good is a fantasy football team, and yeah, my fantasy football team really
But
contributed
no,
very
let's
nicely.
not talk about that. Let's not talk about that. No. But something
Yeah,
interesting about the Seward game, I was doing a little digging, and Seward was definitely on the ropes. Pius scored with 3 minutes left and tried to get the win with a trick play at the goal line, and Seward was able to hold him out.
yeah, that
So
game was awesome.
very
I would have liked to watch that in person. Obviously, you can't get
right.
everything in the games, but yeah, that game was pretty surprising. And we'll quickly review the fantasy teams just because we'll highlight some of the top performers of the week, just because that's how that goes. But quarterback Nate Kelly, which was a quarterback I drafted, he had an awesome game. We'll get into more of his specific stats whenever we get to his matchup. But man, he really killed it. So did Des Smith on the ground. They both really contributed. They both had over. Let me fact check really fast.
No, it was crazy. I was looking at the game recap for Scott's Bluff, and there was one play on it, and it was Nate Kelly running for like an 80 some yard touchdown. I was like, oh gosh, I'm screwed in fantasy this week.
Yeah, Nate Kelly just really had it. Here's the stats I kind of gathered. Nate Kelly, 62.1 points. He did really nice. Bryce Lakers also had a really nice game, 41.4. Sad to see their season go away, Gretna. But yeah, some of your team still hasn't had the stats up yet, and I still have to kind of check those. So we'll go over that next week.
I will concede the win to you. There is no shot I'm outdoing Scott's Bluff's backfield and Rice Laggers, bro.
Yeah, shout out to Nate Kelly. He really catapulted me there. But yeah, so now we're just gonna get into the games here. We got four games, for the biggest games in Nebraska this week. I really like a lot of these games, especially the two middle ones. So we're gonna start off with Bennington number one versus number nine McCook. Bennington handled business last week, and they have just a really awesome defense. And McCook also has a surprising win. They really took over that game super late, and then Will Campbell, or not Will Campbell, Tristan Campbell had 245 rushing yards and 7 yards per carry, and he was the main back. And they only passed the ball, like you said, they had no passing completions. They only passed it twice. Um, and to me, if McCook wants a chance to win, they have to get Campbell going once again. But that kind of brings me into my second point. This Bennington defense, has made running backs a complete non-factor this week. So let's kind of go over the stats of opposing running backs Bennington has faced. Nathan Axman of Waverly had 19 carries, only 57 yards, 3.0 yards per carry there, and Waverly as a team only had 1.8 yards per carry as a team. So, and then they didn't let Brock Templer of Blair, which is one of the best running backs in C or not C, Class B, didn't play a really huge factor. Jet Tinglehoff, he had 39 yards on 22 carries, 1.8 yards per carry, 2.1 as a team. And the way I see it, Bennington is very likely to stop the run in this game, and that's going to have to make McCook pass the ball, in which they really aren't comfortable with. What do you got for this one?
I mean, I agree with everything, basically. I think McCook is better than what people might be giving them credit for. Winning in the playoffs, especially against a team like Hastings, is no small feat. So I think they're good and might challenge Bennington. You saw Bennington get challenged a little bit earlier this season by Gretna East is a team that came to mind, and obviously the top couple Omaha teams. But I really don't think Bennington has a chance of losing this one, but I don't think McCook is just gonna lay down and go away like it looks like Grand Island Northwest did in the first round.
Yeah, just playing Benetton is just a super you don't have a lot of morale unless you're kind of those top teams because it's just such a
Right.
gap between some of these teams. But yeah, we'll move on to the picks part here. I'm gonna pick Bennington in this one. I think that their rushing defense is too good, and I think they're just gonna get it done offensively as well.
Yeah, I got Bennington 35 to 7. It's gonna be next to impossible, in my opinion, to beat Bennington.
Yeah, I don't think a Bennington loss is on the horizon until maybe next round. I don't know how the season is in my head right now, but some of these teams I think to have a chance, but not this week. So now we'll head over to number four, Scottsbluff, where you're really high on, and versus number five, Elkhorn North. Uh, you being high on Scottsbluff really proved last week. They had a really dominant performance, and I'm not going to talk about Scottsbluff first because you had way more optimism in them and you got the pick right. So I'll let you talk about this one first.
Oh yeah, I'm a big Scottsbluff guy. Now Scottsbluff has something that they didn't before, and that is a good win against an Eastern team. Gretna's kind of a turbulent Eastern team, but I would still classify the Dragons as a good Eastern team. And I think Scottsbluff is going to be riding high on that. And something interesting is that I I think it was the semifinals last year. Scottsbluff came to Elkhorn and ended up getting beat by the Wolves. But now Elkhorn North, being the lower seed, they're going to have to travel out to Scotts Bluff in a rematch of last year's semifinals
Yeah,
or
another
quarterfinals. Yeah.
yeah, another advantage for a driving in terms of driving for Scottsbluff opponent. Not sure how much that contributes to the actual game. It doesn't. It's definitely not a positive for sure. But yeah,
Yeah, Gretna and Gretna East both went out like the day before uh, in order to like save some drive time the next day
yeah, I think that's
for their
definitely
first
a
round
good way to
matches.
go about that. But we'll kind of go over some of the games and some kind of what I have for these. Scottsbluff really just performed amazing last week. They got it done on the ground awesomely as well. They did it fantastic. Um, two guys over 200 rushing yards. Nate Kelly had 273 himself on 15 carries. That's 18.2 yards per carry. That is crazy. Des Smith got it done, 215 yards on 16 carries. And the small amount they did pass, they had enough success where that's not a concern at all. But what is a negative I see on this game is Gretna's quarterback had 361 passing yards and three touchdowns. Bryce Lakers had 200 receiving yards. Um, that could be a problem against a good passing offense that they're about to face. But that offense that they just had themselves is just very overwhelming for really anybody because they can just get it done with any phase of the game and with anybody on that team. They have just explosive guys. But on Elkhorn North side, they did a great job of making adjustments and beating Elkhorn, and they really handled it pretty nicely. I really liked the way they went about that game, and they got Jet Tingelhoff going way better than he did last game as well. He had
Right.
144 rushing yards and a touchdown, and then Ethan Beachy also did well on the ground. He had, I think, 79 yards, I believe. And Alex Utchman got going, 6 receptions, 83 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I just like how they corrected their wrongs from last game, and that shows a growth as a football team. And that shows that they're going to keep getting better every week. And I I think that was a good performance as well against a really good defense. So I think they're hot here. I think they have an advantage. Um, do they have an advantage? Maybe I don't believe they have an advantage, but these both teams are pretty hot right now. I'm gonna let you pick again here first.
Yeah, so I think Elkhorn North definitely did what they were supposed to and got the win first round. Uh, I don't think Elkhorn North or really anybody in the state of Nebraska, with the exception of maybe Class D2 and Kyle Cox, has seen a rushing attack like Scotts Bluff has. And I know beating a team twice is hard. I know it was last year. It's a rematch of last year's uh, second round. But I think that's really going to motivate Scotts Bluff. I think Elkhorn North might maybe overlook them a little bit, and I think Scotts Bluff wears them down in the end and wins about 35 to 17.
Yeah, you saying that they can wear them down is extremely possible, especially with just how much they run the ball and how deflating a team can run the ball, how deflating that is on a defense. Because I played in high school, and that is just not very fun to experience. Not I didn't have it very much because I was on a pretty good defense. I'll toot my horn a little bit there, but anyways. Um, I don't want to pick against Scottsbluff here, but I think that Elkhorn North is just a really good team, and I can't pass up on them this time. If Scottsbluff wins here, uh, it's a different conversation next week, and I'll be excited to have that conversation as well. I'm not hoping for Scottsbluff to lose or anything. I just have Elkhorn North in this one. Totally get both sides
I
though.
mean, I mean, Scotts Bluff Bennington would be kind of an insane game. I might just go watch that if I could. That would be a crazy game to watch.
Oh
If
yeah,
it happens, of course.
yeah. But yeah, we're gonna head to the next game, which is number 2 Seward versus number 10 Gretna East. I was very disappointed in Seward this week. I know it's hard to beat a team twice, but I thought that you got to make these adjustments whenever you beat a team 35-0. You got to be a better team than what you were at that point of the year. And I wasn't expecting a bigger margin of victory, but I was expecting a similar one, maybe 28 to 7 or something. I wouldn't have been disappointed, but a 1 point victory after scoring 35-0 in the first game, it's a little disappointing. But when you look at the box score, they didn't have a bad game on the stat sheet. Pius's offense was kept in check on the stat boards, and their offense performed enough. But yeah, we'll talk about the first of these teams. These teams did face off, which was that was week 1, and Seward won that
Yeah.
game by a little bit. I think it was 41 to 20 something. I don't have the exact score on.
40, 41 24. I was actually at that game and it was pretty close until about the fourth quarter and Seward kind of ran away with it in that fourth quarter there.
Yeah, I went and checked on the stat sheet, and I did not notice Edison not being on that. I'm not 100% sure if he played that game. It doesn't
He
look
played
like it.
that game.
He did play that game. Okay, maybe I missed it then.
Wait, I'm pretty sure he did. Hold on.
Okay,
Let me do some checking.
we'll fact check.
Keep
While you're
going.
doing that, I'll talk a little bit about Gretna East. Gretna East is really hot
Oh,
right now. And you mentioned last week that this is a driven team, and I completely agree. These guys are hot, they're gritty and hungry. I think that this is not going to be an easy game for Seward at all. Last week, Gretna East, they have a really punishing defense and they really get after it. They had 5 sacks last week and 2 interceptions versus Gering. I really like the defense on this team. They're really scrappy, and yeah, I like this Gretna East team.
Yeah, Ed Knott did play. I just looked at my photos. It looks like he did play, but anyway,
Okay,
sorry.
it's all good.
I knew East could beat Gering the way they did. I just didn't know if they would. And I was wondering what kind of motivation they'd have. And it seems like they were pretty motivated. But before I keep talking about East, I want to give some respect to Gering. It was their first playoff appearance since 2011 and their first time hosting a playoff game since 2009. In that game, looking at the stats, I was impressed with East's quarterback, Chase Grow. He was 14 for 19, 274 yards, and 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception. I think if he can manage his turnovers well, he's going to be chilling.
Yeah, I think Gretna East can rely on their defense a little bit. Not that they should completely rely on it. They do have to have some offensive output, which I kind of noticed that their rushing attack wasn't the greatest, but they do have some guys on that offense. I think this is a
Right.
defensive team though, but I think. We'll head to the picks here now. This is an interesting game to me. Um, I'll pick first here. I'm gonna go Seward just because they've shown us that they can win, and they have done it all year. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is a really, really tight game heading into that fourth quarter. And Gretna East is just they want it a little bit more and they pull out. But I am gonna take Seward. I think they're an overall better roster. They have some better guys, I believe, at the top. But Gretna East is a solid football team.
Yeah, when you look at the results, Gretna East towards the end of the season looks like they've really figured themselves out.
Mhm.
And judging on how close the last game was against Pius, even though Pius is a really good team and I think a lot of people overlooked them, I think that shows Seward kind of unfiguring themselves out. They shouldn't, a team like Seward, the 2 seed, should not have to rely on a goal line stand to beat Lincoln Pius. Earlier this season, Seward did win, like we were talking about, but again, it's very hard to beat a team twice, especially a team like Gretna East. I think they're going to be really fired up after that win. And I think they beat Seward 27-14.
Yeah, I think if this team, if their morale is high, this is a hard team to stop in Gretna East. But I think Seward, they're gonna really digest what happened last week, and they're gonna have a really good week of practice, and I think they can win it. So, but I don't hate your pick at all. But as we move on to our last game, which is Scott versus Waverly, this is another game that's pretty awesome. I like it. Pretty interesting. I'll let you start on this one since you have a little more familiarity on the Omaha side of things.
Yeah, let me pull up my page real quick. So first round Waverly took on Norris. That was probably definitely the closest game. Well, other than Seward, they were both pretty close. But it came down to the fourth quarter. Norris was down 7. They scored but missed the PAT. And then they threw a pick with 2 minutes left. So Waverly pulled it out. Scott, while there were no stats available on Max Preps, they did pretty much what I expected, and that is dominate York pretty handily, 49-7, getting that mercy rule involved there. So this is another interesting one, I would say, but I think Scott is definitely top. I would call Scott top 2 in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think they're definitely top two, and they showed that against Bennington. So about that Waverly and Norris game, Waverly won by 1 point, and Norris missed extra point. I believe it was a botched snap
Yeah.
on their part. So I think Waverly kind
Yeah.
of got out of that game with a little bit of luck, but they did keep that offense in check for the most part. I do like Waverly's defense. I have liked them all year. Um, just the biggest takeaway I have out of that game when it comes to the box score is Norris, when they were in the air and they got the ball in the receiver's hand, it was very positive. Nine completions for 244 yards on those completions, which is it's a pretty high number for only nine completions. And I think that the Norris offense is a good passing offense. I will give them that, but this Scott offense, I'd say, is a better passing offense, and I really think that they click a little bit more through the air than Norris does.
Right. Yeah. Continue, continue.
Yeah, yeah, we'll just head into the picks here. I'm gonna go Scott here just because they click on all cylinders when they get in the air. Dylan Van Dyke and Joe Kolga are probably the best connection, I'd say, in Class B. I think
Fair
so,
enough.
and maybe even in Nebraska. I don't really, nothing comes to mind right now. Yeah, I'm gonna go Scott with this one.
Yeah, I don't respect to Waverly. Shout out Waverly's journalism department. I know a lot of people in their journalism department, or I guess, well, some of them graduated last year, but you get the idea. I don't think it's close. Scott wins 49-14.
Yeah, that's going to conclude our playoff preview and prediction segment. As like we did last week, we're going to do another fantasy draft, and we'll see how this week turns out. We do have a slim down player pool, but definitely not starved of good players. We have a lot of good players on the board here, and I'm going to give you the first pick last week since that's kind of how we do it here.
Yeah, I did not pick very well last week at all. Um, I'm gonna learn from my mistakes. I'm taking Nate Kelly first overall. Please score me some points, Nate. Thank you if you're watching.
Yep, and good pick. Yeah, he just did really crazy. He's a running back pretty much at quarterback, but he can throw the ball as well. I mean running back in the sense of the points he's going to get you. But for my pick, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take his running back, which is Des Smith. He had a good game for me last week. I'm gonna keep riding on the train. Maybe they kind of sell out to stop Nate Kelly a little bit and open up a little bit more, even though he had 200 yards on the ground last week. Anyways, for my second pick, I'm gonna go Joe Kolga from Scott.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't take him, I would probably have scooped him up right there. Gosh, I don't know how super duper well I prepared for this one. Need a running back. Or give me a second. How long do I have to make a pick?
You have some time.
Okay. Give me a second. I'm sorry. I did not. I might be screwed here. I'm not trying to lose again. Oof. Um, sheesh. Not seeing very many good options, bro. This is not my favorite. Um, um, sheesh. Outside of those top two, I really have no clue what I'm doing. You know what? For my running back, let's go Jet Dingelhoff. We're on the Jet train back. He had 144 yards last game. I think he could do. I think Scottsbluff's defense is pretty good, but I still think Jet's a pretty good back. Who they'll try and give some carries to. So we'll see how that pick goes.
Yeah, I think that could pay off for sure because of I think that game could really end up in a shootout. And then you do have another pick here.
No, I'm back to back. We're doing a snake draft.
Yep.
All right. Give me another second then. So we've got our quarterback, we've got our running back. I'm really focusing on this one game here, this Elkhorn North Scotts Bluff game. So that'll be my most interesting game fantasy wise. Give me Alex I don't know how to pronounce your name, man. I'm sorry. Alex Uchtman from Elkhorn North for my first receiver.
Yeah, he was really high on my board too. I like that he got more involved against the Elkhorn when he did in the the first game. But for my first pick, I'm gonna stick in the lane of running backs and receivers, and I'm gonna go Will Guts again of Bennington, and then I'm gonna
Don't
take
take my guy. Don't
Edison
take my guy.
Knott from Seward. I think
He did
that
not take my guy.
I
He did
didn't
not
take the
take the
guy.
guy who I had. No, I don't. This is kind of a strategic pick here. We get two running backs, right? Or is it
Yep,
a flex?
two running backs and a flex.
Okay, well, for my second running back, this is kind of a strategic pick. I think this game will not be close, but I do think this guy will get a lot of carries. Uh, I'm taking Tristan Campbell from McCook for my second running back because he's, I mean, as you saw in their last game, he is their offense. So give me Tristan Campbell.
Yeah, and if they are gonna win the game, it has to be through him. So that's another good pick.
My pick again, right?
Yeah.
All right, let me just Google search Nebraska football tight ends because I don't know any. That's kind of unpleasant. Give me just a sec.
I can give you two
Gosh, I
names,
should have
the two top ones.
two names. Oh, please. I'll take the second one too. I'll take the second one in the last round, actually. I don't want to steal your guy again.
Okay. It's either Carson Herman from Gretna East or Braxton Buford from Scottsbluff. I don't have a preference. You can pick whoever here.
Oh, well, Carson Herman's cracked, bro. Carson Herman, man. Carson Herman. All right, let me look at East real quick. Yeah, gosh, I did not prepare for this fantasy draft well at all.
Are you gonna take Carson Herman there?
Uh, Probably not. Where? Oh, gosh, box score. Here we go. Um, Actually, yeah. No, I am gonna take Carson Herman. So hold on. So yeah, for this next pick, I have no idea who a good tight end is gonna be. But shout outs to Danny Made It for recommending Carson Herman of Gretna East. I did not know he was a tight end, but he had a really good game against Gehring, and I think he has the potential to do the same here against Seward.
Yeah. For my next two picks, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna start off with a receiver here, just because that's all I have. I'm gonna go Cooper Johnson from Bennington. I'm gonna take the Bennington boys again. Took them last week, and it worked out. They had fine games. And then for my second pick, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my tight end Braxton Buford from Scottsbluff.
All right. I got two picks left. I've got a flex and I've got a wide receiver. For my flex, I'm literally going to do the same thing I did with McCook and do it with Waverly. I don't think this game is going to be altogether that close. But in the last game, Nathan Axman of Waverly had 48 carries for 208 yards, which is insane, in a game where they only put up 17 points. So give me Nathan Axman for my flex. And then for my receiver, I wish Scott had their stats up. I'd probably take a Scott receiver if I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, but receiver for my second receiver, give me another second. My bad.
Just a little shout out while you look for that. Jack Vinylek from Seward. He's high on my big board. Not sure if you're gonna pick him or not, but he's pretty high. So I just figured I'd give him a little shout out in the little space we have. I would pick him if I had a little more room.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think Seward's offense really runs through Mr. Edison Knott. But sure. We'll go with Jack Vinylek from Seward. I don't hate that pick. Gretna East, when I saw them, had a little bit of a problem against the pass with Gretna. It's Gretna's.
Yep.
Wait, I can't remember if that's right or not, but Gretna East, I don't know exactly how amazing their pass defense is going to be against Seward. We'll go Jack Vinalek. We'll see what happens. I'm more confident in this team than I was with last week's. I'll say that much.
Yeah, he's going to be a good pick for you, I think. I think I really like the matchup. I think they're going to really lock it in and maybe throw some creative plays in there and make sure their playoff run continues because this has just been an awesome year for them. But
All right.
for
I'm still picking Gretna East, but I'll take Seward's wideout. Sure.
yeah, and for the last person in this draft, last but not least, of course, one of the top. This guy is one of the top quarterbacks in Class B. He leads Class B in passing yards amongst the five leaders in Nebraska for passing yards, and his number one target is by the name of Joe. I'm picking Dylan Van Dyke, Omaha Skutt for the last pick, and that's going to conclude the fantasy draft. And thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for Fisher for coming on once again. It's late at night, and shout out to him for going to high school volleyball. If you have
I
anything
did.
interesting to say
I got
about
the
some
shirt on.
volleyball?
Um, I was at like almost every game today. I called a game for the first time ever. That was pretty interesting. But gosh, yeah, volleyball was pretty cool. I think they got. Oh gosh, I think Kearney Catholic is pretty good at volleyball. I'll say that. Shout out to Hazel Harburg.
Yeah, I'm not 100. I don't watch too much of the volleyball, but I will say Kearney Catholic. Their logo is awesome. I really like the stars. It's one of the ones that stand
It
out to
really
me.
is. It really
But
is. One year for Husker Fan Day, I printed out like a Kearney Catholic logo and had the two Kearney Catholic quarterbacks on the roster sign it. So
that's
W
awesome.
logo for real.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate you for coming on. Thank you for everyone for watching. And that's another Class B playoff preview. And we'll see you guys next week for another one. And I'll see you guys later.